Since the dawn of time, humans have had a knack for doing 4 fundamental activities: breathing, eating, touching, and fucking. These behaviors have often paved the way for history's most notorious plagues. And so next time you're in a subway where all, and I mean all of these activities routinely occur, thank your lucky stars for modern medicine. Today we'll take a look at the 5 most devastating pandemics in human history. We start with the exotically named Cockallis, also known as the Great Pestilence. It was a mysterious illness characterized by high fever and bleeding, which caused about 5 to 15 million deaths in New Spain during the 16th century. This disease caused up to 12 epidemics, the worst being in 1545, 1576, and 1813. One thing it had in common with the Spaniards was that it almost exclusively killed native people. Now, a combination of mega droughts and the Spanish policy of crowding natives in settlements caused the disease to thrive as a result of bushmeat or eating food with feces in it. And as you shall see later, these 2 practices have caused a lot of devastating conditions in human history. Now, Cockallis caused a very rapid deterioration once it entered the human body. Symptoms included fever, headache, and bloody diarrhea. And then there was the bleeding out of every imaginable orifice in the body. The disease was so bad that some people even got new holes to bleed out from. Mercifully, the suffering was short, and people usually died within 3 to 4 days of contracting it. Due to the symptoms, many people have postulated that a type of salmonella may have caused it. But don't worry, kids, the salmonella you get from chicken today is unlikely to give you rectal bleeding, even if you raw dog a chicken breast from Walmart's freezer section, although you probably shouldn't do that. Speaking of raw dogging, our next pandemic is HIV and AIDS. It is caused by a retrovirus that attacks the human body's immune system, leading to severe opportunistic infections such as tuberculosis and some types of cancers. HIV spreads primarily through unprotected sex and the exchange of bodily fluids such as blood. Yes, even during blood pacts, so those are best avoided. HIV is spread from these little guys right here. They are called pan-troglodytes, and it is postulated that transmission happened sometime in the late 19th to 20th century. Now, I must inform you at this time that it was probably a blood-to-blood exchange as humans were hunting and preparing these chimpanzees for meat in West Africa. But is there a chance that some depraved human being shagged the socks off one of these little beasts? I have no idea, but yeah, someone probably did it. AIDS became pretty prominent in the 1980s and has killed more than 35 million people since then, and probably like 3 chimps because people have stopped eating and fucking them as much as before. Now, there has been some progress in treating and managing the disease, so it's not as rapidly fatal as before. Infections have gone down, unless if you're part of a statistically unfortunate demographic like black people or men who have sex with men, or black men who have sex with black men. Cholera is a disease caused by a bug called Vibrio cholerae. The disease generally spreads from eating food or drinking water that has been contaminated by this bacteria. And when the bacteria gets into your gut, it releases toxins that draw water into it in vast quantities. It effectively turns your intestine into a high-speed water slide, with some people losing as much as 6 liters of water every hour. This resulting loss leads to hypovolemic shock, kidney failure, and cardiac arrhythmias. Now, it is beyond the scope of this video to explain what these are, but they are generally things you do not want to have. Untreated, cholera will kill up to 60% of its victims, usually within a few days and sometimes within hours. The world has seen 7 cholera pandemics. The first one started in India around 1817, and remarkably enough, the 7th one is still ongoing as we speak. These pandemics combined have killed more than 38 million people, including the 11th President of the United States, James K. Polk, and allegedly Russian composer Tchaikovsky. During the 3rd pandemic, a physician called John Snow realized that people were probably getting cholera because they were somehow mixing their water and their poop. He created a dot map showing all possible sources of contamination, and this discovery led to water and feces being separated and several lives being saved, although there were 4 more outbreaks after this. So our propensity for shitting when we drink is still ongoing. Influenza is caused by a virus belonging to a family called orthomyxoviruses, and it used to be a much bigger deal than it is today. Typically spread through droplets, it is easy to see why it was so prevalent in the old days, and why it will be a major nuisance in a place like a subway. It was responsible for a total of 6 major pandemics that killed more than 100 million people. Animal-to-human transmission is also suspected as a cause of the initial infection, although chances of it having been through inappropriate relations are a lot lower this time. Now, no other plague invokes as much terror and fear as much as our last plague does, which is also known incidentally as the plague. It is caused by a bacteria known as Yersinia pestis. Now, throughout history, this bug has been responsible for the Black Death, the plague of Justinian, and the third pandemic, which combined killed well over 140 million people. At its worst, this disease ravaged over 60% of the population of Europe and was transmitted by a flea carried by rats, so it fits really well into our subway example. It managed to spread so much mainly because people were not big on hygiene back then, and does not necessarily change today, but the game changer is that it can be treated fairly easily with a week of antibiotics. The disease had 3 manifestations: bubonic, pneumonic, and septicemic, all of which are rapidly fatal and usually overlapped in the same person. One of the most positive consequences of this disease was that it killed so many people that rich landowners who did not treat their workers very well were ruined simply because they ran out of workers to work on their fields, and this subsequently resulted in improved working conditions and higher salaries. Y'all do with that information what you will. Till next time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.